Hello guys, nice that you're here.
Today I had an appointment I was really looking forward to.
I've met various people on YouTube, and I honestly categorize them into different levels. I first encountered Leroy, which led me to discover Maximilian. So first of all, nice that you're here. Here too, we had some preliminary talk just now with a lot of information. It's a shame that it gets lost. I would recommend you to learn a bit about Maximilian, just go to the video, but it is also linked under this video. You will find everything from Maximilian, Instagram and YouTube, and also the association for which he is active. You only co-founded a Perspectives EVs. That, and Maximilian also does a crazy job on YouTube that also adds value, and that is also very important to me, that it is not just show, it is also fun. YouTube, me, but it should always have added value. Maximilian, could you introduce yourself in 1-2 minutes, who you are? Easy?
Easy. My name is Maximilian Pollux. I do crime prevention, violence prevention, drug prevention all over Germany today. I was previously a juvenile intensive offender, then after 2 years of escape, a little over 2 years of escape, I spent almost 10 years in prison and really came from a very young age into crime. I celebrated that. I looked for my role models in the world, and today I try to give people other role models through the association Sichtweisen, a positive role model through mentoring. Exactly that is what we do, yes.
Now, of course, I have already taken a lot out of it. I say in the video from teacher, a lot is already explained. I would like to focus on it. So if you say you have looked for your role models here, can you compare that today with anything? How young people look for role models?
You know, I think it hasn't changed at all. So for me, it was a bit like typical also in divorce. So there was a divorce. My biological father was not there. My stepfather, who later adopted me, is my real father today. Still, I know that somehow that it was always a small conflict. Because your biological father is not there, you always have the feeling that a part of you is not present and is being rejected, yes, in part. And then my stepfather was actually a bit too boring for me. He was too bourgeois. He paid taxes and went to work on time daily. I truly value consistency, and it's my goal. Back then, I found it boring. Above all, I felt that if a conflict arose, we would, for instance, call the police. The first men then entered my life. Had you already formed a negative view of the police at such a young age? I think it wasn't as extreme as it is today. But the police were already the disruptive factor. Because I was hanging around here somehow, I was about 10 at the time, and hanging out with 15, 16-year-olds at the station or at some places. And who drives you away?
Who comes and says, hey, pack up?
Together, who somehow. The older ones say things like, the cops are coming, oh shit, oh shit. Then you hear that someone disappears. Where is he? Yes, he was arrested. He ended up in jail for me. It was then very quick, and I was guided by things like Robin Hood, and who is the evil in Robin?
Hood, the Sheriff of Nottingham, so...
Exactly, who comes with that? Who is the evil in Star Wars? The Empire.
Everything that
has a uniform was
evil for me, and I found that quite harsh. So I didn't know that about your father figure with your adoption. They also say today in science, yes, criminology, and also in extremism, that particularly missing father figure and identity, and that not
maybe deal with.
That it can promote that sometimes.
Every day is promoted. In any case, on the other hand, is that even if you have the father there, I think many of you are still deliberately looking elsewhere for the role model. If you want to be against it, you want to somehow also give a contract to what you have at home. Well, and then you just look for a role model. As I said, mine was constant. And I then chose loud, erratic men. I chose people who were impulsive, who were aggressive, physically, who were physical. Represented that, therefore.
No.
Today, I find myself feeling a bit like that too.
But you are already, I have to say. So here are a lot of people here at the cranes, long gone. I have recognized Maxime from 200 meters. That is, yes, one gets used to. That is a very
physical posture.
It is, yes.
Good, we both weigh over 100 kilos. I don't know now. You're just about 100 kilos. We both weigh over 100 kilos.
That was immediately apparent. That's the prison.
I almost suspect that this is the prison.
This is also such a typical environment to go and so on. To show a certain size compared to everyone else.
Really?
I'm trying to totally tone it down.
I saw it right away.
You have in one of the conversations.
Also said yourself, he who also said the conversations that it was. So he sat with his legs crossed and there it is. And now yes, take up a little space with that. Apparently I still do. Yes, okay, thank you, good to know, but
The broadcast is positive. You could see that right away.
so too.
Despite being treated well, you found your father's laughter too shallow. It was too shallow for me.
When I think about it, in my generation, the film that was somehow the role model for many drug dealers was Scarface. And if you think about it, Scarface Tony Montana, what kind of man is he? He is loud, he is aggressive, he is unpredictable. These are loud characteristics. Impulsive. Impulsiveness and loudness are qualities I do not appreciate today. Can't take a step back, so can't take a step back, will never admit a mistake. And people, he ends up killing his best friend, his sister dies in his arms, and his everything, he loses everything. And that was the type I looked for him as a role model. But it's crazy how you can do that.
Saw it. But it's crazy how you can train that. You fade out, so you only see the wealth and sometimes the good life being portrayed, but it's faded out that everything is broken in the end at Escobar's cost, where everyone...
I hear, again, Pablo, now currently El Chapo. He is the biggest drug, again, of all times, the richest and most powerful man in the business. Better than any of you who sells drugs will ever be. In the business. Where is he? He will be insane within a year or two from sitting in solitary confinement for life. Insane because he sees no one. Life sentence without a chance.
He will definitely not have any contact with other prisoners. Not at all.
He's going to Supermax.
He's going to...
Colorado to Supermax, where he will never see people again in his entire life. His money is of no use to him. Also, just one more thing. His firstborn son was already shot around the 2000. That's something people always forget, so he's so rich and he's so powerful. He would do anything.
To get his son back. Yes, and as we've seen, they're all on the run in some way. And we will
Soon.
get to your escape experience, as that's what triggered me the most. I often only dealt with criminals who were on the run, who didn't have much going for them. They then say they were all on the run because they had 10 counts of fare evasion and somehow didn't pay a fine of 1,500 euros.
And then you go to the neighboring town?
Yes, exactly. That's not a flight.
Berlin to Potsdam?
Yes, this is not an escape. So if you have an open arrest warrant, and I believe in your case it was even...
Europe-wide. It kept growing. It started as just a summons to come over. Then a few weeks later it was the arrest warrant. Then a few weeks later it was the European arrest warrant. Then Morocco was added, Turkey was added, and then came the manhunt.
Okay, you learn a lot about you from Leroy and then, of course, on your channel. There is a lot of information there too, and I hope that we might see Maximilian live also on YouTube or something. Maybe we can make it happen. Now he can only say yes.
I'm in.
Okay, so you had family relationships there. What was going on with your mom? We could take that from the video. How surprised she was, and she was a strong woman for you. I understood that correctly, so that you saw her for the first time. And then there was some criminality. Can you explain in short stages somehow how that escalated? Because you don't just start and move a kilo.
Cocaine? No. I believe most actually start with property crimes. That's the small property crime, that's the small theft. It has become a part of our culture now that we are constantly exposed to things we can't afford. This happens to everyone. Even high earners always see things they can't afford. Now take a 12-year-old who doesn't even have pocket money, who is happy about 50 pennies for some kind of sweets. He constantly sees things he can't afford. I experienced the same and eventually started to steal. I didn't even think of the idea that you have to work for some things or something. I thought it's right there, so I decided to take it. Those were the first, I believe one of my first crimes was a burglary.
In my
Daycare. How old? 5th grade. That was very young. That is very, very young.
old butterfly.
And, watch out, we even forged a plan, because the plan was, we saw, again, at that age you have no reference to what money is. Much what a lot of money is. Then I saw, it said we have to make Christmas stars, and they are sold at the Christmas market. It was said that one will be sold for 3 marks and the other for dings during market times. And then we thought, look how much money they have after the Christmas market. And that evening we then left the window of the daycare open, so one of the windows at the back, and went back in the dark. Intense, but that's already a lot.
Criminal energy.
It worked. We went in, stole a small cash register, and ended up with 65 marks. Huge success. 3, without much work. Without much work, and spent everything right away. Bought things from it. Panini. I know that.
It's 92.
It was, EM.
It was
Denmark, EM. Yes, exactly, Germany.
then. And
There it was. I had my Panini sticker album full because I could buy so many things. I somehow bought for 20 marks. And the next day or 2 days later, we died. Why? Because I come to school somehow with my full backpack, show everyone my Panini book, and still have a Mercedes star hanging around, which I broke off somewhere.
That was the time back then. Attached to the keychain.
I still remember how uncomfortable it was for me to get caught. And now comes something that I notice again and again today with the difference between perpetrators who just steal or just do something and those who later become intensive offenders. It comes down to how you view punishment. That's a key difference.
I still remember we were
3 of us, and for one of us, being punished, getting caught was the worst. He never did anything again. And for the other 2, including me, it meant nothing. It was like, if I hadn't been caught, it would have been okay. The only problem was getting caught. So better improve. Improve, don't get caught anymore. The punishment itself didn't mean anything to me, could have been a harsher.
punishment helped.
Not at all. What would you do, chop off my hand?
The motivation helped me recover after I betrayed myself stupidly, otherwise I wouldn't have a hand anymore.
A quick learning effect in young years, right? Yes, but until you really learn something from it, I mean, that's always the question. Does a harsher punishment help? You can think about that for yourselves. What if you've done something wrong? Punished super hard. Do you then think, oh, that was a mistake to do that? Or do you think, wow, they're mean?
To me, I think you can see it in the United States of America with the harsh punishments. I believe they have somehow over 2 million prisoners in jail and super harsh penalties. Okay, then you gradually improved.
I gradually improved, driven not by money, but by my desire for certain things. A Panini sticker album, I couldn't fill it. That's what I wanted to have. And then quite early, around 13, I started smoking weed. At that moment, something else changes. Because from that moment on, you need more money. Before you desired many things, now your desires have changed to needs.
I need money.
Now I need money. And even if I only have 5, I'll switch to euros for our viewers. Even if I need 5 euros a day. As a child, that
Who has no pocket money?
150 euros a month?
Where am I supposed to get it from? And then you still have...
Nothing else. And then you still have nothing else. The fridge is fully stocked, so you don't need much else.
Yes, okay, but there's always something. There's always something.
But these 150 are already immortal. And that means I still remember the day I bought hash for the first time. I bought 2 grams, sold one for the same price. I was like, okay, so that's how it works. That was right, I was like, okay, this way I can cover my own consumption. And suddenly you're considered.
You also learned by doing just like me, right? Without such a...
mentor, right? Then someone came. Actually, someone was already there.
Oh, so someone's already there.
I had an uncle who really had his fingers in everything. He was, I believe, the closest you can be to organized crime without really...
Okay, so info level.
known everywhere. Multiple storage rooms all over the city, a different car every day, several apartments where he doesn't live, like that.
All sorts of things.
That you as a law-abiding person don't even...
No, so...
multi-criminal, like...
I like to call it.
multi-criminal, as I was later. I think these are good terms, by the way, so that hits it pretty accurately. When he noticed the direction things were going, he kind of protected me, made suggestions, made offers, gave me a good price for things I bought. How old were you then? 13?
Did you ever talk to him after your time in prison? I don't have any
Contact with him because
This person is just a pig. He is...
a complete...
I must admit, we have done many terrible things here, such as involving a 13-year-old, which we shouldn't even discuss further. But a 13-year-old afterwards too, I believe, he also made you do it.
persuaded you, or...
Motivated
The drug courier drives,
to do. After...
driving to Holland, giving it a shot, and helping him out. And again, we often talk about the criminal as a man of honor. In my experience, if they are real criminals, there's not much left to it. Earth or Borders, a nice motorcycle, always drives around here. I always told myself I'm more of a type. We might get to that later, how I committed my crimes or what kind of criminality I committed. And yet, I have done terrible things.
The thing is that these words are also used so inflationarily in this milieu.
Are used permanently?
Used what I saw, what was pulled off within the clubs, within small gangs, how they cheated each other over any shit. The main thing, I have more than the other. and then businesses, and how other criminals said they have money lying around, and then you can get in there. And standard,
That was my daily bread, was actually the robbing of other criminals. That was actually later then. So my main activity, and there was always grooming before involved. That you always someone went like, what are you doing from the price he was what, and then you suggest a slightly worse price. So more than one. It costs a bit more than expected. What does 100 grams cost there? What does 100 grams cost there? So you can then get the 5 kilos. Yes, exactly. Where is that? What is honorable about that? Where is that? I always have. So no matter, we will definitely come back to that later. So maybe again.
Yes, because it is like as the honorable society, and so this mafia thing and so on. Look,
watch Goodfellas. That's the perfect mafia movie. There is everything in it. Everything you need to know about the mafia, everything is in there. Today you will be admitted, he walks in.
Pack.
And in the end they betray themselves. So
It is. Exactly. And one even took out the other for the money.
we have a nice tip here. This is how organized crime operates.
But we have also seen the films from a different perspective. I think that's the problem.
For me personally, I know today the reason why I was so susceptible and why prevention work did not work for me. I had supervisors from the start due to being so noticeable. Back then it wasn't called hyperactive or anything, it was just called behaviorally disturbed. That's just a disturbed child. So I had psychologists after this break-in, there were also psychologist talks and so on. Quite early, and nothing worked. Why? I always use the example of Christian F. and Children of Barnhof Zoo. Anyone who has watched the film should conclude that heroin is not for them. Heroin is not good. The movie clearly depicts the effects of heroin addiction. Nevertheless, at least 20% of the people who watch this see in it what's chic. Yes, exactly. And where does that come from? I met a girl in prevention work in Bavaria, a 16-year-old. She had been using crystal for 1.5 years. And she said she started with crystal meth when she saw the federal government's campaign. A pretty girl on one side, healthy and radiant life. Years later, the anti-drug campaign depicted a crystal meth addict as a toothless, half-dead zombie.
After.
She saw it and said to me, I had been bulimic for almost 2 years at that point. Bulimia, also known as binge eating disorder. I was surprised at how quickly one could destroy themselves. Intense. The thought of people going through self-destructive phases frequently occupies my mind during my prevention work. And there sits one. I know that for sure. There sits one too. If you say this is like Goodfellas and how we'll all die, go down, and find a heroic death, I understand. But it was better what got me on the tongue back then. I wanted to destroy myself, I wanted to have a neck.
So it's also what I want to mention here, of course, because we just mentioned Christiane F., We Children from the Zoo Station. Also, Maximilian is an author. Yes, the book is linked here. Kiel, I must say, I unfortunately only got it 3-4 days ago. I ordered it on Amazon, but it's available everywhere. And I will read it. I will also do a review about it, if I may. I'm looking forward to it, that I didn't manage to read it, okay? So do Yes, Their Crime. Everything nice from the outside, then you sniff in. Or end in, or so far deep in, then you started drugs. Taking drugs to sell and then
Came increase. First comes the penalty curve, you will then court. Suddenly you are 14 things changed. Before that I was taken along. Packed were arrested among other things already somehow, so this police enemy image has intensified. Yes, through my appearance today also I have long war with the police led and have that today. This penalty curve, exactly. You will then at some point, 14 so far, you are 14, you are criminally liable, now changes, that is not. So yes, he may come into the home, or he may have to in. No, he goes to jail. We're taking him with us. We're taking him with us. I always have this story about the house search, where I first understood it. The moment when you... What are children most afraid of? Their parents, since they're the ones who punish them. If you know my mother was quick with the cooking spoon,
you have to be careful.
Or even grounded or such punishments from the parents. The moment of the first house search, that was over. My house arrest, house search?
What is that?
My mother has nothing more to say after trying to prevent it. The police from arresting me that day, He must attend school. Abruptly, she's powerless.
Did you notice that? My parents were overwhelmed afterwards. They didn't know what to do anymore.
What do you want to tell a child who has problems with the police? How do you want to make yourself important again?
Did your mother realize how much that was? Or did you just pretend to her that was just once and now I got caught? Or did you really understand afterwards what was going on, that it goes into serious crime afterwards?
So, in the end, of course, my mother knew that something was very wrong because I was on the run. I had to leave Germany, which she already knew. The problem is, my mother didn't know what crime is. She can't assess that. If you claim it was a misunderstanding and you only have a warrant now insisting it wasn't like that and you didn't intend to do anything to him, actually
He attacked me.
What do you do as a mother?
Yes, so that's not possible. You grab at every straw.
Yes, he's telling the truth.
He can't
Be that bad. And I remember, for example, when I had blood on me and stuff, that my parents didn't see it. That was too much to see. You know, a bloody t-shirt. My mother never really asked, what did you do? What's happening? And when I said, it happened while skateboarding. Yeah, I also lied to my parents like that.
I am on the bike. Exactly, I am on the...
Bike fell off, skateboarded. But I haven't skateboarded for years.
Yeah.
And why is my t-shirt full of blood, but I have no injuries?
Do you remember a conversation, I would be interested, do you remember a conversation where your parents took you aside and said, Maximilian, well, my goodness, what can we do? Yes. How do you look at it today?
I tell you, this conversation, it's a reference to another mafia movie, namely the party one and the last scene when Michael lies to his women, yes. And I still remember my parents sitting there and saying to me, it was shortly after the first selection when it was about in fines and then it was about whether they pay it. So if you were not, then we pay that for you and we pay the lawyer and we will do everything for you so that we will do everything if we put all our strength behind you. If you now say, if you tell us you were not and if you are, then also, right? But tell us the truth.
You would have already the...
Truth could have been told. I sat down and said, this is how I was, here you sit. But it wasn't me. And I lied to their faces. And that was the moment when I did that. I was also drilled by my parents. Never tell the truth in relation to crimes. Never. And that was such a moment when I decided to stop being a child, even towards my parents. To treat even my parents the way I treat everyone else. Actually, a very sad moment.
Is it?
Incredibly sad. From that moment, you are alone. That was before, at the moment when I could say, yes, okay, it was me, can you help me?
Let's find my way out together. And what a great gesture to say, like my parents did, no matter if it was you or...
Not, we are family. But we need to know how to
defend.
How we position ourselves externally. Because if we say it wasn't him, or whether we just pay and adjust our lives accordingly. Maximilian.
We're going to make a quick cut here. Exactly, otherwise there are no cuts in my videos. But now there's a cut in it. Time for the pets. So Maximilian, we stopped at the point where you started lying to your family and your childhood was over. You decided to somehow go for crime, say it like that, and against the family.
I was unaware that my decision went against the family's wishes. In movies, families are often depicted running alongside, which influenced my perception. One lies, one lives parallel lives. So I remember Christmas dinners somehow, second Christmas day, where we were invited to my parents or something, and I came directly from the robbery, so from the extortion there, because we knew he is just on the first or second Christmas day. I don't remember whether it was the first or second, in any case at home. And when is he definitely at home? At 7 o'clock in the morning or at 8 o'clock in the morning? And that's when we just walked in on him. And that was near Munich. We went into the apartment, it also got bloody. And then I arrived a bit late for the meal and changed in the car. I was dropped off and just walked in, still having screams and chaos and a more or less botched robbery in my head. And I walk into the apartment and get in trouble for being late. Ah, where have you been? Now he's here. My girlfriend and mother were already there, nagging at me. And I was like, it was this parallel life. Where were you? Ah, yes, I had something else to do and so on. Nobody
knew
what I was doing.
You're leading a parallel life without realizing it. We've both done it before, you more intensely.
I knew it. I had a home face and an outside face.
Okay, intense. Can you switch like that already?
The issue is that one world often bleeds into the other, and it's usually the dark one that invades the light.
World over. Exactly, because the emotions that you have, if you are a violent offender, what you just said, of course, also happened with violence. I think if you learn violence like that, then you can't switch off 16 o'clock and then suddenly just be the loving boyfriend at home, right?
That was my wish and what I wanted. It's what I think.
Many still think that it's possible, but
You can't make it. No, it's like this. You will start to wear this mask. You will put on a mask, go out, work with this mask. At first, it's actually the mask of evil, this mask of hate. You don't have that as a child. You learn it. Then you put it on when you go out. Get ready for your robbery. Sit up when you're with people. And at some point, and at home, you always take them down. And one day you come home and you can't get this thing anymore.
down. And now your girlfriend says
Something.
and then
Your girlfriend says something. And then you lose it. When things go really wrong, you grab her. Otherwise, you'll carry this hate back home with you. And I remember that my girlfriend at the time, she sometimes couldn't stand to hear me speak anymore. Because I kept falling into this. You become so hard, so relentless, and so consumed by that you become unbearable for other people. Empathy dies. The empathy dies, and the worst part is it doesn't actually happen to them. They continue to love you. They continue to love you, and you become cold, cold, cold until they can let go. You wouldn't believe the kind of mail I've been getting lately from little sisters who can't seem to get their big brothers out of their system for years, and they chase after them and get nothing but pain in return.
Guys, first of all, thank you so much for the comment just now. It's such an important comment because people forget, they only see snapshots and think that's it, but you become a pig. I always say that too. I was lying on the couch at some point in the evening. I was super quickly irritated and so on. Thank you for this great comment. It's such a value. How you change, and actually the people who are around you who love you, you destroy them too, right? You destroy them. You destroy them.
One of my punchlines at the workshops is actually, if you're a criminal, those who love you pay for it. That's always the case. I deal with people I believe in. I work here in North Rhine-Westphalia with 14, 15-year-olds, whom I believe you want to be gangsters. You can be gangsters. You are so tough because you are already so tough inside. But what about your mother? Because she's going to be a gangster now too. You said we're going to talk about the escape now. What does that mean? I won't go on the run alone. You're taking your whole family with you. They're all getting involved. Whether it's the house searches, the pressure from the manhunt, or the fact, where is your mother going to visit you if you're on the run? Now, my mother is suddenly a gangster because she has to
Travel incognito to see me. So, you see what's coming here? I also feel the emotions. There's still a lot of oomph in it. Yes, that's the topic. Yes, there's still a lot of oomph in it. Okay, you went on the run. Would you like to briefly say why? So what was the crime and how old were you?
I was 19 at the time, and the crime was, again, it was actually a robbery. That's always the case. The boundaries blur between robbery and theft. The charges were aggravated robbery and grievous bodily harm. So we went into the apartment, wanted to get something. The person was a dealer. The stupid thing was, we thought he was alone with his girlfriend, but he had visitors. Other members of his group were still in the apartment, so he couldn't allow the robbery to proceed. We were four. We were four and very violent people who commit robberies for a living. He should have just given, he didn't. Then it escalated and he got a knife stab in the neck. I still remember that moment when he gets up from the couch. I knew that my accomplice, who was there, who was closest to him, is very jumpy and didn't take that. But as soon as he gets up, I know what's happening. I still can't prevent it. Do you still have that in front of your eye? I vividly perceive it. The sound, the smell, the feel. It's truly something else. You go into an apartment, you want to do a little thing. You want to rob something, steal something, you want to catch someone on the
Street to rip off?
whatever. From one second to the next.
It's
Attempted. You didn't even do anything. If he had died that day from a deeper stab to the carotid artery, I likely wouldn't be here today due to receiving life imprisonment. Although I was a teenager, then I would have gotten 10 years.
But what you hear here is Maximilian is involved and is just as much a part of it. I am involved. So, because many always say, yes, I didn't have that, I was just there and the other. Oh, that's a thin iron, thin board.
That makes 2 years difference. Who then is the perpetrator and who? I still remember at that time the knife was still in his throat, and I calmed my accomplice down a bit so he wouldn't cut, but pull the knife out backwards. And he pulls it out, and at that moment the whole room was silent, and we all just, there aren't many possibilities. Either it spurts and pulses immediately or it flows. If it flows, you somehow have a better chance. So if it's like, foofed, well then. Initially, not much blood came out, indicating it wasn't the artery. Then I even helped them in the sense of, here's a towel or something. I don't remember what I gave him because I was hoping we could forget all about it.
At that moment, you want to reverse it.
I don't want you going to the hospital and getting stitches. The police will get involved if you do. Can we forget all this? No, we can't. Now it's over.
I'm really excited today. It's an important point again. You're an excellent conversation partner because you often discuss the same topics I cover in my workshops. At that moment, there are also many criminals who always wish, God, I hadn't had that 1 second. Why did he get up? Can't you do it? Can't we really do it? We go out and you step in front of us.
I wouldn't even anymore. You suck out. I would even
Leave the stuff there if we can forget about it.
But you see, he is as white as the wall. I see blue veins in his face. He's so white and his whole head has already changed. I know, we need to go to the hospital. I know we won't forget the things. I ended the robbery back then due to the dynamics at the time. Oh, that one was ended too. What I already had, we took with us, and on the way out, I started collecting weapons that I see, so the typical baseball bats on the door. But that was more like the thought, what if they chase us there? Then the fight continues outside, but it doesn't change anything in court. That is part of what you just need. Yes, guys, that's how it goes.
And no one
Had planned it that way.
on that day. And I guess you're like this. We also have conversations on the side. I would say cognitively everything works perfectly fine with you. Back then, it was different back then.
So I have a young man, and you know that yourself, and it should not be an excuse for you, but a young man still has the synapse is sometimes not yet as when I was arrested. After all, I was 21, but I was not 21. I was a 16-year-old.
It was not like today.
It was not cognitive. It was not yet like that. It should not be an excuse. I should not have had to do that anyway.
Out of the house, police, ambulance, and
Of course, the police came later. And then it was clear relatively quickly back then I was so brazen that I often didn't wear a mask during robberies, even when people knew me.
arrogance.
The thought of wanting to become famous, the thought, what protects you as a criminal from other criminals? My thought was, if you are feared, and I was always young.
18, 19-year-olds, then we take the 18, 19-year-olds first.
Not seriously in the criminal. We eat that. I have 70 kilos, 75 kilos. And that's why I thought, if I rule with fear, then they will leave me alone. And that's a big misconception. This must work out. You need to understand that people are attacking El Chapo. Pablo Escobar has been attacked. The most dangerous criminals in the world. They don't care.
Do you know what the funny thing is? Everyone always thinks there's some kind of status, final boss. There isn't. There is no final boss. That's the way it is.
Unbelievable. The craziest guy in Cologne comes here, goes out, and someone will say, that guy's a jerk. Yes, now it's his turn. Now it's his turn, and it will never stop. Ruling with fear means living in fear yourself for the rest of your life. It's that simple. It's as simple as that.
Yes, okay, so no more going home. Did you still live at home? No,
I no longer lived at home, but was still registered there. A few days later, the special forces entered my home.
I said, Mom.
My little brother was in the apartment. He experienced the special weapons and tactics raid. This is another example of the impact of your actions on your families. My little brother was 12 at the time. He had no connection to... He didn't know that the special weapons and tactics was coming. He didn't know what the special weapons and tactics is. If he had been cutting a pizza with a knife that day, had turned around, I always say this, if he had turned around or had a soft air gun in his hand, they would have had to shoot him. Not because they are jerks, shitty cops, but because what else are they supposed to do?
Self-protection.
They go into an apartment where there is someone who stabs with a knife.
Exactly.
No, he is wanted in connection with several criminal activities. They have to be able to shoot, can't wait for him to stab them. My brother survived back then. He never blamed me. The little brother too. He never complained about it. He never said, you know, that you put me in danger of my life back then. Instead, he said, the first thing he said when we heard each other again was, I didn't say anything and so I would never betray you, and that was one of the moments where something was already a bit broken more. Like, I didn't want that what one actually demands, but I didn't want that from him.
Here now,
I keep hearing this from criminals I work with. None of you want your little brother to go through the same thing. Why do you tell him that it's a tough life? Why do you tell him that it's great? Why do I hear from all sides that being a gangster is great, but when it comes to whether a little brother should do the same as you, then not. Then it's not good. Or if your little sister with a gangster should be together, how about that? If you want to marry the gangster, otherwise not, so they don't want that. Gangster, gangster, gangster.
everything once in between. That's cool.
Why is that so? I may have acted correctly in that past situation. Hold on, I don't want the same for you. I didn't want that. Forgive me. No, don't forgive anything. I didn't say anything. Everything's fine, brother. So, now we have two options. We have the arrest warrant open. Either we stay where we live and then we are quickly arrested, or we turn ourselves in, or we go on the run. For me, there was no question. I wanted to be a criminal, so to speak. It was the next saga in my criminal lifestyle, finally after order, where I am so.
Really celebrated something, but it is already a crazy
Decision said I go on the run. I mean, you're 19? I expected a 3.5-year sentence for a severe robbery committed by teenagers, but it turned out to be 5 years.
Let's say
3.5 because I helped or something like that. I didn't feel like going to jail for 3.5 years. I had a dog, a Spike. He was about 1.5 at the time, and I couldn't imagine not seeing him for 3.5 years. That was not an option for me at all. The dog's distinctive white American appearance made it impossible to travel to Berlin or Hamburg.
Bulldog there.
I would be checked just the same there.
One.
Asks if he has papers. So I went to the Czech Republic, where I thought no one cares about dogs, which is true. And then I was there for the first few months, somehow like that.
Yes, and then you drive over there by car, right? So we did back then. There was back then. But you four, who did that? No. Everyone decided for themselves.
Oh, everyone for themselves? Everyone has their own decisions. Has anyone stood up? One, yes. But he was actually the least involved in the whole thing, and he was allowed to go again. I was told to only drive the car. And I went along, and in the end, especially because we said go, say it, we two were the main culprits. Say, not there anymore.
So you as a duo are not going out together?
We didn't go out together at first. We spent time together later, but I went out alone at first. Yes, but I still wonder, 19 years old, did you have money? For a 19-year-old, I had a lot of money, but for
Escape I had not enough money.
That too, if you want to flee and you don't have $1 million, yes. We come to the two important points now. One is you leave your identity behind. So if we go through a bag now, what does escape mean? Escape means you don't need your wallet anymore. Health insurance card. People often forget that first, which is interesting that you mentioned it. Forget. The first thing is identification gone, residence permit gone if you have that. Bank account gone, that's the next thing. Bank accounts with large balances get blocked, while those with small balances are left open to track activity.
You're spending something,
They won't block it for 1,000. They block it at 10,000, and then comes the health card. What if you want to go to the doctor? That's over, you have a new name now. For me, I was already a bit used to it, living outside of society, paying for things at the bar and so on. So you went over to the Czech Republic and got yourself a passport?
Or something like that myself.
I later obtained some papers, but never a proper passport. I had a fake Czech driver's license, but it wasn't helpful in the Czech Republic if you didn't speak Czech.
So you
Show your Czech driver's license, yes, payable, blah, 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 but hunt the march, that's it.
I would still be on the first few days.
Escape for such a feeling.
Could you?
Not, that is today I can. I would have to me when I sit down and write, would it maybe all come? But I do not even have access to the first pensions. I still know how we are over the border, so okay, come.
I wanted to
Stir up the story?
Should I also get the story out?
Watch out. I'm unpacking the story for the first time now, but I'm really short. I had a guy back then who told me he has contact in the Czech Republic. He has everything I need, everything I want, only costs $150 from Women Over Crystal. I get everything for $150 so much. I pack this guy. We have to break into the pension on the way to the Czech Republic, which I found strange. So yes, we have to go by, and then he doesn't have a key and breaks the door open, and so...
And I'm like,
okay, you're a strange guy, by the way. This is all almost 20 years ago, so...
it's already expired, okay? And then
We put him back in the car, and just before the border, he says, there was still the real border control. Just before the border, he says, maybe it's not so good. I actually have no papers. If I'm now at the front, I'll go in the trunk. Then we put him in the trunk. He was also a over 2,000 pound guy, and he sat in the trunk, and we drive with a gun, with 200 grams of hash for my own consumption. Somehow I drive over this border, and we stop in the head, and I used my German passport for the last time in my life. And I show it like this. And if he takes it now, it's my turn. Then it's over. And we have a 265 pound fatso hidden in the trunk of the Ford Fiesta. Oh God. While we're waiting in line, I look back and see this felt sticking out the back,
Kind of.
moving a bit. And I yell at him like, if you don't want to move, you pig. We're all in this, and they threw us around. And that was my farewell from Germany. And the guy, to tell the funny part, like the crooks would be, crooks stick together, gangsters stick together. He said, we go over together, we stick together. In the first boarding house where we stopped, I was at school, the guy is gone. He abandoned me in an unfamiliar boarding house in the Czech Republic, in an area where I had no prior experience or contacts. That means actually he would have abused you to cross the border, but totally. Yes, I can also nourish. So much for that. So much for that. So the whole story went a little further. I saw him again. It's basically the same. He brought me over.
What? Did you live?
Firstly, I'd taken a bit of money with me, and secondly, I started doing business quite quickly, but the Czech Republic is a tough place to survive.
Okay.
That's why I quickly did what one does next, which is what everyone always tells me. I have a family. I go there if I have to flee. Okay, guys, now a question. Can you tell your family that you are fleeing? That's the first question, because if you can't, when I arrived, I went to Spain, I have family. That was my own thought. Oh, this is uncomfortable, I'll go to my family. Then I arrived, and my aunt picked me up from the meeting point and said, "Hola, Maximilian." At that moment, my heart sank into my trouser pocket because I hadn't heard my name in a long time. I wanted...
Not? Yes, of course. How?
I'm not sure, as Maximilian isn't my real name. And then, what does your family say? What do you want to be called? Imagine a 3-year-old and explain to her, your little powers or wherever, you are no longer who you always were. You must use a different name now and not reveal any personal details about your origins or background.
Such crap. So?
Or you tell it to your family.
And I believe that people also forget is, with the right arrest warrant, the family will definitely be checked out. They would also, yes, good.
But if you are sitting in Morocco or something like that, it was my biological father's distant family, so there wasn't really one.
Connection, okay?
It can work out sometimes.
But there are also crimes. If you have a target, they'll come after you.
Thanks.
So they have already caught quite different ones who drive with millions of targets.
Mm-hmm. With me then a few years, so a couple of 2 years later, then they were also there, so
They were also there,
They knew. You were from there to there, were you there?
They make...
Nothing else.
Sometimes it's like that, the cops, shitty cops can't do anything, and so... I have experienced the pressure when the police really want you, something is set in motion, a special commission is founded or something, and then they have nothing else to do but to see where you peed, where you drank a Coke or...
Something else. They knew what kind of dog food my dog had.
Where I
get the dog food for him. Just think simply, what do you have? 5,000 euros, 10,000 euros, 20 friends who have infinite money. They have infinite money. They have helicopters, they have snipers, and they have no...
Time pressure?
A drug investigator said to me back then, and I found it very interesting because he actually said it to me early on, when I was about 16, 17, and I didn't understand it. He said, despite your laughter, after another fruitless check and a 4-hour police interrogation that same evening, he went home. He says to me, look, you were lucky today, but you have to be lucky every single day now.
And
I just have to be lucky once and your
life is over. It's that simple. That was this sentence. I just need
to be lucky once, you forever. For every second of your life. And whoever hopes for luck is
a difficult subject.
You know yourselves how often
one is lucky.
Even one instance of misfortune can be enough for it to end badly in this situation. As I said, I went to the family. There were situations like we were sitting on the beach or near the beach and I had my cousin on my lap and 2 police cars drove by. The Guardia Civil comes, rushes over, and at that moment, I almost threw her. I wanted to throw her away like that. I was like, should I run or not? And then they jump out and run past us into the house and just get someone from there. But she didn't even notice it, the little kid. And when you then consider that at that moment, actually this one here, it's a...
Brings me to my last question, namely on the escape paranoia theme.
There are people who have less paranoia than I do, but they are also stupid people. So the dumber you are, the easier
It is for you, paranoia.
to push away. The more you understand what you're doing, the more... Do you know what the term outlaw means? Yes. For viewers, outlaw implies having no rights. You are not under the protection of the country's law, in this case here, for example. If someone kills you, they will not face punishment for the act. If someone robs or rapes you, they will not be punished for it. Welcome to escape. Imagine, I am in Spain. I meet some gangsters. They find out I am on the run. They say, hey, you know what? Give us everything you have, and then they bury me or throw me into the Mediterranean. What now? The police didn't even know I was there, so they won't be looking for my body. They won't be looking for me. Even if they find it someday, if they ever find this body and figure out through DNA, oh, this is the hardened criminal Pollux from Germany. What now? Who investigates?
Now, yes, what should the braggart do? That is,
An act you can commit without being punished.
and perhaps an important thing is also to trust other criminals on a run.
Yes, they will kill you.
Yes, so
Some Germans remain at large. I'm telling you now, they are dead. Those who the police don't find are dead. All of them, regardless of their names, including the few missing for years, are dead. Because someone has discovered, hey, it's you after all. It's simple. You're in Barcelona and have been seen here for 4 weeks. I ask, what are you doing here? Working? No, don't go there.
and then it always goes on.
And where, and how, and what. And if it turns out that you are wanted in Germany, I already know that. I can take you. Yes, exactly.
And if
You're likely being sought for a robbery involving money.
or something like that. We observed this with the Drac and the Riemsmeier guidance, where all the colleagues were found in Mallorca and other Mediterranean locations. He couldn't trust anyone at all.
Holleder in Holland, who did the Heineken kidnapping,
Is
in the photo the 8 are somehow shown. With them, we're all dead. What do you think?
You can also watch the movie The Kidnapping of Freddie Heineken. Maximilian, they are all dead except for Holleder, who is in jail. Many thanks a lot for your time. That was the first part with Maximilian.
We will...
Then also go to the prison village. So check out his book, Kiel Eck.
Kiel Eck is a novel about prison. Check out my Instagram and my YouTube channel.
Yes, everything will be linked below. Anyone who wants to contribute positively to society can join Sichtweisen EV. Workshops can be booked. Email is below. I thank you for your ongoing support of this channel, including all patrons, channel members, and others. Many thanks. Maximilian, it's an honor to meet you today. I sense a purpose and genuine energy in people here. As always, I sign off with an ahoy, this time from the Rhine. Bye, Coco, ahoy.